Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Worlds 2016, where Group C is hitting the rift in our next match between H2K and AHQ Esports Club. Now, first up, let's take a look at AHQ, who qualified after rebounding from a rough summer split.
I mean, it's the same roster that made it to the quarterfinals in 2015, we have to remember. Settled roster, which is not a common thing. Even as we said, Rox Tigers have mixed up that roster. So, settled roster, they're here again. These LMS teams, they always overperform compared to analyst expectations, and this could be another one.
Yeah, and their support Albus has stepped up a lot over the season as well. He made it to the All-Team 1 support team, so like he was rated the best support there in that region there, so definitely made some progression here. There are some questions about the internal communication, you know, how it breaks down. They released some interviews, some statements that they had poor communication going on. Mountain was kind of crumbling too, but they made the resurgence later in the regional qualifier.
Now, of course,
his opponent, Jankos, though, the first blood king. I mean, this guy has been aching for international competition. I've personally been so excited to see him finally face off, and I think that this is actually the time that he's really going to put it all on the line and really show just how proactive he can be in the early game. And in the current meta, the early game is so important. We saw in all the first two games, obviously in the exception of the Rocks versus Albus, it wasn't that much, but this one, I think that he can make a big difference.
Well, now H2K, though, they have had their fair share of struggles over the split with inconsistency in play, as well as a roster change in the bot lane that we have to mention. Forgiven coming in for Freeze near the end of the split.
Yeah, they initially spring split, they swapped out Forgiven, said, you know what, this isn't working out, you know, we have to break up. Then suddenly Freeze got injured and they had to reunite with the kind of the crazy girlfriend when things weren't going too well, but suddenly things started going off for H2K. They won 4-0 and then they won their tiebreaker games. Forgiven with zero practice came in 5-0, but the problem is never with zero practice Forgiven, it's when you start practicing with him and if the internal kitchen goes on fire.
All right, so his first Worlds appearance after 3 seasons of play. I know that he's here to make a statement. We talked about the 680 carries that kind of sit at the top of the list. He's looking to jump into that conversation. We'll see if he can do it, and it starts here today.
I mean, honestly, I was expecting angry tweets from the man himself, very outspoken, but I mean, the matchup that you talked about, the jungle, Mountain versus Jankos. Jankos, as you said, had a wonderful split. Mountain, right at the end, kind of God-moded it in playoffs. His Gragas games in particular were outstanding, but I guess the question to me is, Gragas is kind of out of the meta this tournament, so does he have that extra strings to his bow now that Gragas is very much a fringe pick?
Well, time will tell, so now it's time for you guys to lock in your predictions on this game. H2K versus AHQ. Down the line, once again, Krepo, starting with you.
I mean, H2 what? It's probably going to be H2-0 in this matchup.
Ooh.
I think H2K is going to beat both
he's
sides.
He's predicting both matchups on day one.
Right,
Bold move.
But they have to, because they're fighting for second place in this group. Like with such a distinct first and fourth place, it's so imperative for H2K that they win this matchup, especially day one as well. But I still think they can do it. I think they have more individual talent and they have a stronger early game.
All right, H2K here. What are you saying, Papa?
I mean, this is a very close one, like the first game. I'm going to stick with H2K as well, particularly the advantage in the bottom lane. I think 2v2 and an Albus have had their struggles, even though they leveled up a bit towards the end of the season. And yes, it's Jankos versus Mountain. Now, if Mountain can show something, he's been playing a lot of Lee Sin and solo queue. If he has a new champion, maybe there's a chance, but got to give it to Jankos.
So the jungle matchup is going to swing it finally here.
And the first blood rates between Mountain and Jankos are actually quite comparable. So he's no slouch in that department, but ultimately I do think that Jankos will shine through. And not just him individually, but just the mechanical differences that I see between H2K and AHQ. I mean, you have kind of relatively weaker lanes along almost all fronts here. Obviously, the exception would be Ziv, incredible top laner, but we've seen that just one lane is not enough to carry a game.
EU Crumbs over here. We brought you on the desk to be an NA representative, and then boom, right out the gate, 2 votes for EU. All right, I've had enough of you. Now, many of the players on stage this weekend are making their first appearance at Worlds. H2K jungler Jankos shares how it feels to finally realize his dream.
I've tried a couple of times already to qualify to the World Finals, and it's the first time I actually made it. A couple of times I lost in the Gauntlet or in the third, fourth place match, so I'm really glad I finally made it to the World Finals. It was my dream the whole time I played League of Legends, because it's where the best players are and you can test your capability against like one of the best junglers from every region. So it's a great opportunity, and I believe it feels amazing as for now.
And we'll see him in that test now, because he'll be facing up with the rest of H2K up against AHQ Esports Club, and we're going to get ourselves in starting lineups.
I love being tested in front of hundreds of thousands of people. Super fun.
Feels great.
Sure. I mean, how many people watch your tournament?
Well, let's get ourselves into the starting lineups here. Europe's own H2K, Odwam up in the top lane. Yankov, just heard from him in the jungle. Rio in mid. Forgiven, their new AD carry. Back again, of course, and Vander on support with Coach Prolly.
And they're facing off against the representatives from the LMS AHQ Esports Club. Up top is Ziv in the jungle, Mountain, mid, Westor, AD carry on, support Albus, and Coach Fluidwind.
Actually, it was Fluidwind. They've subbed in Green Tea at the beginning of this one now. He's the one who's going to be coming to this one. And let's actually, now I have to go back and I'm not sure if I should have corrected you or not. I know there was a change and I forgot which one it went from and to. Either way, those were the two.
Green Tea wants on stage.
Okay, my apologies. I actually can't see the stage from where I sit right now, so I wasn't able to tell who it was. Either way, though, there is a pretty big coaching staff for AHQ. Those two have been working together for quite a while with the rest of the roster, and we're going to get ourselves into this champ select very, very shortly as we figure out what, as Crepo, I believe, had talked about, this is the battle for what we assume to be second and third in the group.
Right, yeah. Again, ADG obviously looking like the heavy favorite, even though we haven't seen them play yet. We have H2K here and AHQ. Two teams, honestly, with a lot of question marks, I feel, coming into this. Both teams have talked openly about internal issues, you know, how do we back up each other, the teamwork, the synergy. Hopefully, it is on point for this tournament so both teams can perform at 100%.
One thing remaining true against AHQ in an international competition. Twisted Fate is banned away from Westor, even though he has moved on from some of those old picks that we saw him stick to. Twisted Fate is definitely something he's been keeping in his repertoire.
Yeah, a lot of people, they think like Zed and Fizz when they hear Westor, but like TF is his old signature pick. And a pick he used a lot this year is Lissandra as well. A bit of a discount TF for him in a sense because you only have to teleport, but it's the same kind of idea where you can go to other lanes and you can impact these other lanes with a global.
The other thing has been Malzahar as well, definitely big for him. With them banning out Syndra from their side, that won't be an option for him. And there is a lot of focus on those mid lane champions because those also affect jungle control as well.
Elise should come in here as a first pick though. We see once again a pick and ban phase where if you start banning junglers, if the enemy team has banned one jungler and you ban one jungler, you very often on blue side have this situation where you can either force an Elise ban, let's say that's the only remaining of the Elise, Nidalee, and Rek'Sai jungle pool, or you get something like maybe a Karma first pick. In this situation, HQ banned the Karma, so Elise is the one that jumps out, unless they value something like a Jace.
The thing is, the third ban for H2K was that Rek'Sai. It's been the third straight blue side Rek'Sai ban here in the World Championship of the 3 games played so far, and that pitch seems to be very, very important to set yourself up for a strong jungler.
And you have to go Elise here. Mountain is a great Elise player. He's the kind of jungler who can impact like Yankos does in the early game, so I think getting the superior early jungler is huge here for H2K, and very, very important for this pick and ban phase.
Well, it's going to be that Elise going to look good for himself. Fizz, the other notable champion that Westeros really known for, Fizz and Twisted Fate, his big 2 mainstays, but has plenty of time to wait to pick that one up. AHQ can figure out if they want to start blind picking priority champions, and they will with the Rumble. The Olaf going to be a safe jungle.
Yeah, it looks like Mountain has learned the ways of that North American Olaf and locking in the Rumble for Ziv. Ziv is such a huge star for this team. And he does it a lot by avoiding enemy jungle pressure, avoiding people, you know, like Yankos on Elise. We'll have to see, though, because Rumble, as you mentioned previously when we saw this champion, pushes up automatically, does expose himself, you know, to those early ganks. We'll have to see if Mountain can control the situation on Olaf.
I want to see Jace from Odo Amna here against the Rumble. I think Jace actually has a fine matchup, especially because you can go Hexdrinker first item and you won't die in the all-in. And Rumble doesn't build any sort of tankiness early, unless he skips like the magic penetration build we normally see. He can, yes, rush an Hourglass. Not as effective, though, on the Rumble, so I think going Jace is actually super effective against Rumble. Also because you have Elise jungle already, so look at H2K here. They're packing AP damage in mid and jungle, setting up for that Jace top lane.
But what's interesting as well is I think Cassiopeia comes into this tournament as somewhat of a flex pick. We sometimes can see Cassiopeia top. And AHQ is not wanting to rush pick a Cassio, right? They grabbed Olaf, who was just a counter pick jungler. There was no rush there. I'm a little bit surprised that Ryu has locked in this Cassio when it didn't seem to be an important champion.
Well, it is pretty simple for people to figure out, you know, down the line what Westor is going to be playing. And since he has publicly added that Malzahar, that would be the next guest choice. Also, they banned out Syndra, which is the, you know, what you would want to pick into Cassiopeia. So I feel like he feels pretty safe as far as that matchup goes. Also, the stats for Westor are overwhelmingly fairly poor as far as CS and lane control. So I think Ryu feels pretty nice with that.
Yeah, -8 CSD at 10 is the average Westor's put up most recently, and they will lock in the Malzahar for him alongside Bard. Now, super early lane for Malzahar, not the best, but around level 7 or so, really spikes up and makes it pretty easy to clear out.
Yeah, this is a risky pick and ban phase though from AHQ, showing Rumble so early and now Malzahar against Cassiopeia. That's a losing lane matchup for Westor. Obviously, again, we expect him to fall behind in CS, but it's more, is he actually able to push the lane at all? Well, he's not really in this matchup. He's going to get pushed to his tower. That stops Olaf from playing very aggressive as well. And that can be a big issue for AHQ in game.
Yeah, the way I would expect it to play out is Westor to go down in CS early to Ryu on the Malzahar, but he can pull a surprise kill at level 6. You just, and there's an Olaf there. They can kill you in the duration.
Have seen some Casio players go like tier into straight QSS just to avoid that. I still want to see the Jace here from H2K versus Rumble with the Elise as well. That combo 2v2 against a top laner who wants to push a lot is so effective, but they do value the Gnar above it. It's an old matchup we used to see a lot where Gnar again just rushes Hexdrinker and then doesn't die.
That's going to be probably the situation we put Odoamne in here. The final pickup, of course, for H2K going to be that Caitlyn AD carry for Forgiven here. The full lineup is in, and it's another sort of strong laner. We're seeing more emphasis towards this Caitlyn or Lucian, who are there for the laning phase, more so than the utility AD carries we were seeing in the patches and the matches we were seeing in the playoffs.
Yeah, and this could basically be a takeaway. I mean, we know Forgiven likes to play Caitlyn, but also a bit of a takeaway to avoid the double range lane with Caitlyn on the side of AHQ. A pick some AD carries use now is like Ashe with the range support against Caitlyn, but you might see AHQ just go something like Sivir or Jit, pick more for the team here specifically and pick a better carry. Honestly, Ashe has been nerfed a lot. Yes, she's still good in laning phase, but she's not as strong as she used to be.
Well, that's going to be the hover actually, and they just might go for it anyway, trading back and forth, and actually will go to a champion that he was known for quite a bit at last year's Worlds.
That's risky.
An incredibly high damage roster, the Rumble, the Olaf, the Malzahar, the Jinx, a ton of punishment available here at AHQ. The team fights start going well, On cleans them up.
Yeah, it's actually him who's going to stick to a champion he's played for years here on the Jinx. You talk about snowball potential. Within a team fight, this is the snowballing AD carry, right? You talk about chaining those passive procs of the extra speed. The first one, they're going to want to try and get off of that Malzahar ult. So maybe we do see, as you said, Deficio, some really early QSSs to try and avoid that situation.
But AHQ here, they're gambling in the pick and ban phase. Like Jinx, Malzahar, definitely not the strongest laners. We know Arn and Westor has had a tough year when it comes to the early game, especially here in standard lane meta. H2K is a team that is built around strong early game, fast-paced early game, and a jungler who can gank 3 lanes, basically, and try and snowball. That's what they're trying to do here. AHQ, they need to get to late game.
Definitely going to be hyper-focused on the junglers in this matchup and that early game, because Mountain has been no slouch. They talk about Jankos, and yes, you know, he's got 80% kill participation in the first 15 minutes, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And AHQ altogether have 4th most kills pre-15 minutes coming into the tournament of all the teams here, but Mountain really hard carried the team getting here in their regional finals, and he has been, you know, vast improvements in his play.
So we'll see if that improvement comes through again for AHQ. Get online and support your team on Twitter. Hashtag H2K win, hashtag AHQ win. For which squad do you think is going to be doing it? Of course, INTZ Esports and Edward Gaming, the other 2 teams in this group, means this is the likely battle for second as we get into our 3rd game of the League of Legends World Championship. H2K takes on AHQ.
Let's see what happens here. Such an important game for both teams. AHQ is a team a lot of people underrate coming into this tournament. It happened before. Very, very often the LMS teams are being underrated. Judging from the performance they've had the entire year, it's been a rough year. They didn't win spring, they didn't win summer, obviously missed out on MSI due to not winning spring, and then had to go through the regional qualifier to make it here to Worlds.
Well, you have to be very careful messing with Olaf on level 1 because he can spam access
and
Bard.
Pop the Jankos. He's going to have to flash, I think, and will do so. Going to flash to follow, won't quite land the stun. Albus does force flash out of Odoamne, though. And it's H2K down 2 summoners. AHQ actually down 3. As Westor also ghosted.
See Olaf's all the time popping that ghost super early on, very low cooldown on the summer spell. Trading that for flash, definitely advantage in that jungle matchup that we are going to be hyper-focused on.
I really like actually that flash from Albus. Yeah, okay, he knew someone could just flash it as well, but trading flash support, Albus is not done. He's still harassing, getting another summoner now, Ghost from Ryu.
But this is much later in the game. Ryu can no longer recall safely without missing experience or gold, so Ryu is down a Ghost and down a potion as well, and even still a bit of health afterwards.
Yeah, Albus really doing some work here. As I said before, I like the fact he actually trade flashes with Odo Amne, because that gives Olaf an opening now to go for an early gank on top side and try and get Zip going. We know how strong of a carry Zip is, and if Rumble gets an early advantage, get early magic penetration, that's an insane mid-game suddenly.
Yeah, the analyst desk talked a little bit about Albus's improvements this year, and he talked about, he'd learned a lot from Mako as well, from EDG. I have to say, though, those small incremental little advantages that we saw to the mid lane and jungle, those are two of the very crucial parts here. One of the other stats that I was looking at coming into this was time spent across the midpoint of the map for mid laners pre-15 minutes. So basically, like, how far up do these mid laners play their lanes? How aggressively do they play? And Ryu was #1 for time spent on enemy territory in the first 15 minutes. You can see right now, he's already pushed up there. Westor's under his turret. Westor was actually 3rd from last as far as time spent on the other team's area. And that really does affect jungle matchups heavily, especially the way the game is played right now. If you don't have pressure mid lane, it makes it very difficult for the jungler to do anything.
Now we've been looking at the bottom lane here for the first minute of the laning phase, and we just got to see H2K take a camp here. It's very hard to invade on Braum. It's very risky. If he tags you right there, you might have to flash out. So AHQ said, you know what, let's just push the lane instead. You actually got to see Arn just get the caster minions a little bit lower, but he kept them alive. And then he started killing the melee ones, because you want to keep these caster minions alive to deal damage on your wave. So you can maybe try and deny a CS from the enemy, or at least force the wave to sit in the middle when you hit level 2 and can then go all in. But no advantage really gained by either team bottom side.
And either way, both AD carries actually picking the more defensive Keystone Mastery, Warlord's Bloodlust, giving lifesteal. So I feel like this actually plays somewhat into On's favor, where Forgiven wants to dominate lane, wants to deal a ton of damage and push his opponents out. And On wants to farm. Well, he's going to have high health AD carries most of the time. This just generally plays in his favor. A nice stun's going to land Zap as well. Look at the damage on a Forgiven. And he even dodged the kill over Peacemaker.
Ooh, Jankos is here around the corner. This is very, very early. Level 3 only. Gonna be a very tough gank to pull off. Forgiven needs to save one trap at least if he wants to do it. He just wasted all 3.
Finds the stun into Albus. The chain is there. A lot of damage across, but that's going to be the nice chompers pushing Incos away. Dive's not going to work. Vander puts up the shield, but now Mountain knows he is safe to dive the top lane.
No flash from Odo Amne. Remember, Albus forced it away level 1.
Ramana only has the jump. He's going to go for the jump off to the side, getting away from the axe, but it's going to be enough damage for Mountain. One more chop, and there's the first blood for AHQ into the top lane.
Huge answer top side there for Mountain, and he's the one to cash in on that first blood as well. Olaf can jump off to those early cooldown reduction boots and spam ganks with his Ghost.
Yeah, we have to question H2K's call here, trying to dive the bot lane, a 2v2 lane this early on. It very rarely works. And then the dive just wasn't really executed properly, honestly, from H2K. No traps from Forgiven to try and chain with the cocoon at all, was just put down right in front of him. And then we knew Mountain could go top lane against a no flash. Now it's a great response here and great early game from AHQ. Questionable calls, honestly, from H2K.
Well, it's going to be a deficit that H2K has to work back from. Normally, Yankos is the first blood king, and that did not happen here. Deficio, you were talking before we got on camera about this game, where the big workhorses of H2K are actually Yankos and Odwamna. Forgiven gets a lot of credit for being a very dominant AD carry, but in terms of really causing the win, it's top and jungle for H2K, who are now set behind.
Yeah, we have, of course, the First Blood King Jankos in the jungle, who's so active on the map all the time, looking for these ganks. He really understands when he can go for different ganks and different pathing towards enemy lanes. But then also Odo Amne, who's just a consistent guy up in the top lane, who is in trouble in this game because he now gets ganked again.
Does have flash available and is forced to burn it. Another Undertow's going to land, and Mountain will not chase through. The broken down box of Graggy Ice not enticing enough.
And even though we've seen this Rumble-Gnar matchup a lot, and Gnar's not to pick into it, it's such a swingy matchup for both sides. Yes, you mentioned the Hex Drinker, and that is a great fallback pattern for Gnar, but if Rumble gets ahead, that lane can easily be a huge point of power for AHQ, much earlier on than they thought it would be.
And I think H2K respected, or let's see there, let's talk about it after, because junglers are going to find each other. Here's Westor, he's ghosting.
Westor coming in, and level 6 on Malzahar means suppression is in. Nice stun by Ryu to save his life. Here comes the re-engage. Low health on everybody involved right now. Rumble equalizer not meaning much as Jankos is able to flash away and stay alive.
Very important here that Ryu actually saves his jungler, stunning Westor, who's obviously stunning himself as well, but he got to block or stop the damage from the ulti. I think there's a bot lane, another good
And the shield
binding.
is down from Vander, meaning he can't really support Forgiven anymore. He even needs a trap at the very end. And must point out, Forgiven is up a solid 11 minions right now. This is the lane dominance you expect from the H2K bottom lane. The actual plays seem to be sort of closely matched. You're seeing them trade damage quite nicely, but still more farm for the H2K bottom lane.
Yeah, it's a dream scenario as a Caitlyn. If you get to go back, get BF sword and attack speed boots, because attack speed is so important on Caitlyn. It's all about these auto attacks honestly coming in. Also now we see more and more people put more points in trap and not just Q. You know, once you are in the laning phase, a few early ranks in the Peacemaker and then you start skilling up the trap, attack speed is almost everything. So Forgiven is still staying in lane, sitting on 1,600 gold at this point. So obviously won't be able to get both items on his first pack. Definitely want the BF sword.
1,800 for Forgiven, 1,600 for On right now, which is enough for a dagger, maybe 2 after the recall. We'll see what it ends up being. Here comes Jankos looking for the gank. Almost a bit low. Walks right in, but suddenly Mountain's there as well, and he lands the stun. So Vander to keep him alive, puts the shield up, blocks some of the hits now. Once again, Exhaust now onto Mountain, running out of HP, onto the trap as well, and Forgiven gets H2K's first kill. The tournament, the snipe, not going to mean too much as Albus tanks it, but look at this now, 400 gold lead for the European team.
Yeah, Mountain just sticking in the same spot, stands there and not level 6, so can't get out of the Caitlyn trap. So good answer back for H2K on the bottom side, and that kill did go to Forgiven. Deficio, you know, he talked about maybe not on his first back. If he sticks around a little while, he might be able to get that dream purchase.
He actually has enough money already for BF Sword plus Berserker's Greaves, so probably shove this wave then back if he wants to cash in. 2,500 gold, it'll be 2,600 when he reaches base. And Forgiven is set up to be one of the major carries here.
He's a rich man now, been winning his lane, got that kill as you guys highlighted. Mountain just going a little bit too deep for it. And H2K, after losing that first kill, managed to bounce back, and it actually looked pretty bad at first because Jankos steps in, sees Mountain just around the corner. He's like, whoop, don't want to go for that one. Gets stunned as well, but then can rappel up into the air, and they buy enough time, and Mountain could have backed away here, but stayed, got trapped, dies.
Well, he got stunned up there by the Braum passive, then the trap laid down from Forgiven. Easy chain right there, and not level 6. Unlucky for him. There it is, the dream purchase, and everybody from H2K is happy.
Deficio the Prophet called the items exactly, and with the extra money Forgiven, does what all AD carries should do and buys a pink ward. Vision is everybody's responsibility. Congratulations Forgiven for doing the right thing. Your supports will thank you.
Let's see where he puts the ward.
Right there.
No. He's going to put it in the middle of the lane, being like, no freak, this ward is useless.
Give 30 gold over. I feel bad for On. Give him a CS.
Well, An did the same, also buying a pink ward here. Funny enough, actually, we were looking at, I don't know why we were looking at AD carry stats for who buys the most pink wards. Actually, NA and LPL AD carries buy the most pink wards. European AD carries buy some of the least pink wards. Except for Forgiven, he's learned in the boot camp, stepped up his game, he's hit 110% now.
Congratulations. All right, right now, 1 pink ward per game for both AD carries. On's going to put his down defensively in his own lane, actually, in the brush down there. That will help Mountain slink in if he needs to. There's pretty much no way for H2K to get vision control of that part of the map, and there can always now be a threat of an Olaf in that brush.
Yeah, I really like that placement here from An. Also stops H2K for having a deep ward that can be used by Odoamne to TP down behind him. And talking about Odoamne and this Gnar, I guess the reason he actually goes for it is just like, I know there's an Olaf on the enemy team. I know my bot lane is going to be strong and push in, so we want to play around bot lane. I'm going to pick something that has like an extra escape. Gnar with the jump can avoid a few ganks here and there, and he's like, I'm just going to pick the safe choice and not the Jace who wants to all in, win laning phase, and it's very easy to gank a Jace as an Olaf, as we talked about in the first game of the day, due to Olaf's ulti. So went for safety, did die early, but is up in CS.
Speaking of safety, we do have the early QSS from Ryu, so that scenario where he talked about Malzahar just popping off with the first or second ultimate as he used the first on the jungler into an instant kill with Olaf there, not going to be the case, and Ryu is going to go with that safety route as well.
Deficio, I got to compliment you in your item game right now. 2 players perfectly predicting the item openings. Love that. Smart man. Great co-caster. Now Westor losing his passive. Ooh, good flash getting away from the Jankos Cocoon. A quick silence on Ryu, and out they both go. H2K right now sitting 600 gold up, the European representative, one of 3 here at the tournament. slight lead over AHQ.
Yeah, while H2K is slightly ahead, I actually think AHQ is fairly happy with the early game. We talked about how they're a team who wants to get further into the game. They have really good shot calling in the middle late game and have very good team fighting later on with the Malzahar, with the Jinx, and also as a team. So they're probably happy, honestly, not being further down. And Inferno being started.
Ooh, he's really low. They're going to get the Inferno, but can he get out?
Okay, he's going to run for the magical journey. Pops the ulti, gets to the cocoon. That was him pressing R in time, and he hits it late. He keeps the R and MR on during the snipe and hits it later. Nice ulti in from Odwabna. Wants to face off against Ziv. Not the best equalizer, no longer tagging the Gnar.
Kills the minion wave, though. He's killing out the minion wave so he can recall. Not really looking to kill the 1v1 duel right there, and he's looking to go back to base.
Jankos is down here in the bottom lane again. There is TP for Odwamna, but no Mega Gnar. Remember that, so he's not as strong as he wants to be. Minion wave will die, but all Jankos is doing here is he's threatening the dive. He's like, okay, you gotta back away, you lose this entire minion wave. Forgiven gets a few more hits on tower, and that is slowly chipping down that bot lane tower without really risking the dive.
Really lands a stun there. Once again, a wave pushed under the turret. Of course, they know Ziv does not have his ulti. Tempered Fate's going to land. That's going to mean a stun onto Forgiven. Oh, he can't cast it in time. Was worried about getting stunned up by Vander. Either way, it is the flash out for the H2K AD carry. And that's good play by Albus to set that up.
Yeah, very important thing with the ulti from, oh, let's see.
For the slow, actually. Just putting damage on the Western. That's actually going to be enough to get the chase in. Has to be back in. Perfect by Ryu. When the Q landed, he knew he had it. His body told him yes, and he makes it go.
There was also good dodge there from Ryu. If you notice, he walked back out of the silence and then continued on with the dive. That was extremely well played by Ryu to grab that kill.
Yeah, like some of the small plays we see here in these 1v1s, 2v2s, you know, Ryu going for the all-in, no flash on Westor, had the QSS. Bottom lane, Albus, he knows when you play against a Caitlyn, if you put the bot ulti right in the middle there, she can't actually net out of it because she will get stunned while she's flying in the air. So either you flash it or you get hit. Forgiven decided to get hit, he almost stepped out, but he had to flash after. This is the all-in. Ryu connects the poison, gets the stun down.
Just the slow right there, but there's the dodge on the silence zone and instant QSS.
Yeah, very quick.
Micro
Very
mechanics.
Well love look at him, love talking about him. Ryu exemplifies them nicely. Quick stun on a mountain, holding on to his own ultimate. Actually shorts the undertow. Doesn't mean too terribly much, though. Jankos would have been basically full health anyway, as he goes to fight on top of a ward to grab his own red buff.
Yeah, not been possible for Jankos to really impact the early game too much. Obviously, he's forced a few flashes. He's put up a bit of a threat in the bottom lane, but not been able to really snowball the lanes.
Look at this roam up the river as well. Westor does turn back. He's not going to continue on with Mountain, but Mountain going for the solo roam up top instead. Odwamna seems to have been alerted.
I think they called at least that Westor left the mid lane to walk towards top side.
Yep.
Either hinting they're invading the blue buff or they're going for a potential gank. Again, we talked about the Gnar and the safety, you know. Odwamna, his job right now is just don't die. You know, if they try and go for you, step back to your tower, buy time. This bot lane tower is taking a lot of damage, and H2K, they want to get this bot tower down. 50% right now, and this Caitlyn is just getting stronger and stronger.
Talking about getting stronger, almost every single member of H2K is out farming their opponent, despite the first blood for AHQ. You've got Odwamna actually with lane pressure and a minion farm lead, plus 15 in the mid lane for Ryu, plus 20 for Forgiven down in the bot lane. But sure, some of it you expect Caitlyn versus Jinx, but it's still incredibly well played, and it's a lot of the reason for this gold lead. It's 1,200 up despite only being up a single kill. Yeah, that's farm.
I'm glad to see, you know, everything kind of going as predicted when we looked at the players against each other. Like Ziv and Odwamna very even in lane. They're basically dead even in CS once Ziv gets that farm here. And then you look at mid lane losing slightly for H2K, bot lane losing as well for AHQ.
Yeah.
They need scaling, they need time. They need to get to late game, and it's up to H2K to make sure they don't get to that late game point.
And they're looking to push it in. Jankos up through the jungle, spots Mountain with the ward. Odwamna now looking for it as well, and Olaf now in a bad spot. Ults at the right time to get away from Cocoon. Trace blows back into Jankos, but when the cooldowns come up, he's dead, and Odwamna flashes to get the chase, lands the boomerang, and knocks him down. And suddenly, this is bad news bears for Ziv. The Rumble is alone, but a fight in the bot lane, not quite gonna land it, as Ziv clears the wave, hits them on a teleport. And oh, he grounds him. Ziv cannot take off. He will get the kill on a Jankos, though. A nice trade coming in, but he is poisoned. Ryu will take him down.
We mentioned the playstyle here for the two mid laners. Not only does it make life difficult for the jungler, but Ryu being able to push up and roam like that also results in the kill there on Ziv, and HQ lose so much pressure due to Westor not being able to hold his own, even though the CS gets pretty much evened up there, and Ryu actually still, even despite roaming, is going to have the lead. The extra kills and the top lane swinging, the turret's going to go down. Odoamne's got the double buff on top of it. It's just so much pressure chains off of that mid lane matchup.
Yeah, Westor was he was looking for the bottom lane, but there is TP for Odoamne and Mega now ready in case a dive was going to happen in the bottom lane. Westor just returns, and that's the thing about like a standard lane meta. Winning lane is more than just like solo killing the guy or winning by 10 CS. No, it's all about pressure. If you can push the enemy minion wave, or sorry, your minion wave to the enemy tower again and again and again, then you can always roam first. You can always join with your team first and make plays happen. That's exactly what Ryu did before, and it's why having a mid laner who's a weak laner is a big, big issue in this meta.
I absolutely agree. You're seeing Ryu 50% kill participation so far. 2 kills making the plays happen. A solo kill in mid, a roam to the top side. It's been beautiful so far. Again, in a bit of a holding pattern. We saw that Mountain was able to take the Infernal Drake about 6 minutes ago. Well, the next one is spawning. It's going to be Cloud. The out-of-combat movement speed helping the roams, helping the rotation. It's something that H2K has done a good job of. Getting out of their lanes, making the plays happen. 19 minion difference in the bot lane. Allen has at least stopped the bleeding, but of course it is still a general advantage for Forgiven and Vander.
Yeah, Forgiven will hit 2 items first if everything goes as planned for H2K. Pushing up Ryu once again. Whenever he lands that poison, he just goes forward. He wants to keep trading.
They have vision on Olaf on the bottom side of the map. So anytime Ryu has vision of AHQ's jungler, he is going to play more aggressively, move up again, and Westor has no option but to cede ground with the QSS completed so early and the double summoners plus the extra kills. Ryu can still threaten kills.
Yeah, and it's really hard for AHQ here to really do anything because Odoamne has that TP ready, and Odoamne is constantly just pushing top lane. So Ziv can't roam, and he can't TP away. He's just stuck in that lane, and that means H2K can make a play on the bottom side, knowing their top laner will join.
And Odoamne has so much damage. He's gone all the way to complete the full Ma. He's plus with a double Doran. Like every single item he's got besides his boots is adding extra damage to the build there. So that teleport in is going to be very threatening. They're actually circling around mid lane once again as Jankos is also moving up on the bottom side and they're trying to push Westor off.
Woody knocks down top lane outer, so how about mid lane to come in as well? Odoamne 180 attack damage, definitely very high. Both AD carries sitting on plenty of gold. We saw On just get to recall now and gets Hurricane plus his Berserker's Greaves. Forgiven, of course, richer than he is, will get even more, but this is now Jinx with her first kind of good power spike. She can clear waves very nicely with this Hurricane rocket launcher.
Yeah, and it's important to highlight what H2K is doing, like how they're playing this. They're consistently just moving to lanes to chip away in towers. And then they step away again, give it a few hits, step away. It's very, very important they don't start tower diving too early, because AHQ is technically playing a pure team fighting comp here. With Malzahar, Jinx, Rumble. So once you start diving towers, you actually enable the enemy team to get potential fights, because they can roam in, they can stop you between towers, they can take the team fight. No, they're just constantly poking and rotating. They're not taking any big team fights versus AHQ, just always move between lanes and poke towers.
The main thing going for AHQ is the jungle though. Mountain with the CS lead, also been able to take both of the early Drakes, adding the Cloud Drake on top of the Infernal for them. It's not enough to overcome this big gold lead that H2K have accumulated in a team fight, but is going to help them maneuver between the turrets for defense.
Yeah, this is actually one of the better squads to have an Infernal Drake on, though, if you're talking about what it's useful on. Every single champion, except maybe the Bard, really cares about their attack damage or ability power going up. You've got aggressive builds from Ziv and co, and this could be very scary then. If the gold gets a bit closer, AHQ has those extra stats. But right now, it's H2K playing the map better, looking for the mid lane as well. A lot of damage onto this turret, down well below half HP. And AHQ really just unable to threaten them. They can kill the wave, and that's it.
Exactly, and it's the same for H2K. They're just making sure, slowly take down this tower, never diving, never give HQ a chance to take a team fight. And yeah, Odoamne, he does quite some damage right now.
Already at the 2-item power spike, completing the Frozen Mallet 20 minutes into the game.
I would like to see H2K make a play on the bottom tower though. The bottom tower is fairly low. They have some vision now with Jankos in the enemy jungle. TP, of course, is available for Ziv, so that makes it a bit harder. They had some time before. Seems like they just want that mid tower.
Yeah, I actually like mid lane even more here because Westor is constantly having to run for his life. Passive is down always, and Jankos is actually setting up on a ward.
Yep, there's the slow, runs into his face. There's not much places to go with this one. going to be a stun on a Vander. The assassin's going to come through. Albus gets the last hit, and Tempered Fate buys a few more seconds.
Oh.
There's the rocket, and it's forcing several flashes out of H2K, who are running out of HP as well. 1 kill picked up. AHQ down 3,000 gold, but with the numbers advantage now on the map.
First time that AHQ finally gets multiple members together, catching H2K. Became a little bit too predictable with constantly setting around his mid tower, and finally they could just move in and actually stop them. 1 kill, 2 dragons, remember, for AHQ.
Oh, the stun's gonna land. Forgiven is gone. Albus, unlucky, gets the kill again. So the support stealing away the gold that could have been better on another source, but more on the map. AHQ able to grab this turret as well on getting the solo gold, and the actual advantage for H2K now down to only 2,000.
Yeah, it's almost too slow now for H2K with how they're moving between the lanes, and AHQ got to react, picked up 1 kill, walked into enemy jungle, and Forgiven didn't expect anyone to be there. He dies as well. Bot tower goes down. Suddenly, AHQ is picking up a lot of gold.
This is why we spend so much time talking about slowly moving up your ward lines and making sure that you're not sitting on a ward like that. That one play from Jankos has chained into a huge comeback here for HQ in the mid game. Even though they're still down in gold, that was a pretty big swing for HQ, considering they also still have those 2 Drakes.
Yeah, it was the best you could have hoped for. We can tell the fact that Ryu
On a ward, trying to make the play. He's just running out of HP way too fast. There's the kill picked up, and again, mistakes by H2K in the mid game.
Wards don't just save lives, they also will cost your death here, as Ryu, also sitting on 1, goes down.
Yeah, really now things are just falling apart. Forgiven was sitting in the bottom lane at his tier 2 tower about to push out a wave, and Ryu was just really far up the lane without any proper deep vision. Look at the HQ jungle, 3 pink wards. He had 0 idea who was there, and he just got caught out completely. H2K needs to make sure to have enough members ready to actually take a fight, otherwise they can't play forward.
Very, very risky plays here from H2K, even though they are this far ahead. They're kind of jumping forward to the test before doing all their homework. You know, wards aplenty, and HQ are making some good counter moves. Next one up is going to be this top turret as they start to converge.
Ryu's already running up the lane as well. He knows it's under pressure, but it's just AHQ who's now faster on the play. They're actually now going to be up in turret 3-2. The gold deficit now only 800. And keep in mind, they're still up these 2 elemental drakes. AHQ arguably just stronger at this stage of the game now, off just the last 3 minutes finding good plays.
You see some of that very good AHQ shot calling. We mentioned in the mid and the late game. They're actually very, very good at understanding where to react on the map or where to put pressure, especially when they have a gold lead. In this game, they had to react to H2K, and they managed to find him in mid lane. This Raptor refuses to die. Sadly, it is
Westar is victorious.
You got it.
Westar he faces, and 4 Voidwings.
Beautiful.
But
Made
now,
it happen.
2 dragons now, another one spawning in a minute. HQ can set up for that, and remember, HQ has a team fighting comp. They want to fight around dragons, around barons. It's H2K who were all looking to play multiple lanes. That certainly is very hard now.
Exactly, it was H2K who was looking for several good lane matchups to split the game up a little bit. Once again, you're seeing Odoamne battle with Ziv. Frozen Mallet is in, plenty of damage there, and you can see what he's forcing to have happen, right? Ziv has to ult. This is, I think, like his 3rd wave he's ulted now, just in a 1v1 against Odoamne. That's his counterplay. I'm not going to fight you. I'm going to just keep my turret alive as they slowly get burned down, and that's the best he can do.
Ulti will be in cooldown though if a dragon fight does happen. Now, it's about 80 seconds left on that ulti for Ziv.
Yeah.
But that means H2K needs to react quickly and actually start the objective to force the fight.
Yep, it's a 40-second window between Cloud Drake spawning and Equalizer being available. That's the time frame you're looking at. Jankos taking a little bit of damage. Nice play there. Repels to dodge 1 Baron shot. You might as well. It's basically 3. A little micro play right there by Jankos as HQ continues to try to play for ward control in their jungle.
Also remember, as we head towards the team fight phase here, Ryu is the only one currently with the QSS, and HQ are just looking to get that first kill so that On can get a reset on the passive, reposition on Jinx to really get that AoE damage down. And all the other members do have to be very wary of Westor's ultimate.
It's worth pointing out for Jinx, for those who don't play her very much, when Jinx came out, her passive was when you get a killer assist, you get a bunch of movement speed for a few seconds. It now also gives multiplicative attack speed, multiplying the rest of her items, giving her a lot more damage, and it's even more important than it has traditionally been for Jinx to get these resets.
Well, Dragon being started. H2K here in the mid game, they tend to get very lost. Back in Europe as well, they would really struggle understanding what to do exactly and how to like set up multiple steps at the same time. They do get a flash and an ulti here, but they lose a dragon for it. And the problem for H2K is they're setting up for Baron by just warding the river. There's 0 wards behind the Baron in the jungle of AHQ. So you can't actually start the Baron safely, and they're just kind of hovering around, doing almost nothing.
Exactly. Also, what's even the point right now of really setting up for a Baron? They're not in a position where they have a huge lead, unless there was a large blunder by AHQ, and they're completely blocked out of that area. H2, I don't see AHQ or H2K really sneaking. Yes, they do have high damage. They do have that Cassiopeia, so if she's got blue buff, there's always a possibility. But HQ, they've got blue trinket ready there for On, and it doesn't seem like that's a high-value area of the map to concentrate on.
I mean, I agree 100%. I think when you are setting up Baron, it's a multiple-step process. You know, you push out mid lane and top lane, you get into the enemy jungle, you set up vision, you go back, push your lanes again, and then you can start actually thinking about starting the Baron so you can see everything behind. Looks like we're just gonna get one big team fight to decide this. Ryu is getting caught out slightly.
Dodges the CC though, and gets an exhaust out of the enemy support. Now into the team fight. Vander holding the front line, forced to jump right back away. No summoners now left up for him, and here comes the battle. Watch the damage numbers come across. A big rocket comes out. That's a couple thousand now for On, and now Ziv caught up with the cocoon, still in the poison, but there's no damage to be had as Ryu's on the other side of this one. The battle for the blue buff, and it's going to be Mountain landing this fight, taking that crucially from Ryu, who's only at half mana.
Definitely, that's a big deny. Plus, it's really good on Olaf, and they're actually going into the Baron pit here to start it off.
This is scary. They're trying to find where the re-engage can be. Wards coming off over the walls, looking to figure out what their opponents are up to.
They don't want to stick in there on the Baron and stay inside the pit. They're just looking to see if someone will extend too far, trying to contest it, and then turn on that person.
So the nice thing about Malzahar, Voidlings continue to pull aggro on Baron, so they tank the shots, but also prevent the regen. Finally comes back up. Now 4 strong. It's
big wave
HQ
top
running through. They're gonna run into Oduamna, who's off on the side, finding some poke. And yes, here is the big minion wave. H2K gonna be a little bit later to this play. But HQ's health bar is still a little bit low, and they're near that H2K base, looking for the siege. Not too much damage found just yet.
Still no big ultis for Rumble and Jinx, and therefore HQ backs away. Really like the call though. They contest in the river. They know they can fight in choke points very, very easily with the Rumble. They force H2K out, and then by starting the Baron, they just wait for that big minion wave to push down to the tower, pick up the minion wave, and get a bit of damage.
People also have to respect the AoE from Malzahar as well under the ultimate if you are heading through one of those corridors. They've got a pretty big wombo there, and if Jinx just gets that one reset, as you said, she's almost at the 3rd item power spike right now, so On is ready to peak.
It's going to be scary very soon. As much as I love to talk about how nice Cloud Drakes are, if those were Ocean Drakes for HQ, that turret was probably dead. The regen they would have gotten, probably just enough to just push through H2K, who was wearing down their health bars as well, but we are now in a reset map. Both teams need to get back into the mid lane, get the wave control, get the wards down, and play for the Baron again.
Step 1 is always pushing up that mid lane. It gives you access to the river, and then you can go to Baron, you can go to...
Whoa, the flash play, they're going to remove the chance to flash out, and On is going to get blasted! Well played by Ryu, now for the re-engage. A lot of damage coming across the burn, back and forth. Undertow hits a few, but Ryu has the slows now on a Mountain, who's already lost his ultimate. It's a 5v4, and it might be more for this one. Not going to land the ulti, though, from Vander, and AHQ will survive with the rest of their members, but a great snipe onto On to start it out.
The one thing H2K managed to do when they were setting up in the river for that Baron a few minutes ago was actually force the flash away from On. So he was down here as well. He ends up dying because Ryu just goes all in for him. Yanka's looking for more.
And that was a great kill for H2K. However, it only enables them to sort of clear out some of the H2K vision, right? Ryu used both summoners, and those are also very important summoners on the Cassiopeia. It was a great opening and a great move to capitalize on it here, as he does go for both members of the backline at the same time. But H2K weren't really able to turn that into many objectives afterwards. The vision that they were able to clear out is definitely going to be important, though.
Well, actually, I do think you're correct here when you're saying that Ryu almost invested too much. I actually don't think that play was even worth it for H2K. Obviously, they expected to get more and then take a Baron, but they only got 1 kill. The same wards are still here for AHQ, and they still have full river control.
Their replacements. H2K was able to get some wards down, but now we've got a fight in this one. Vander in the front line, taking plenty of punishment. Mountain still on the chase. The shield drops, and he's got to run away from this one. A quick snipe doesn't mean too much. Rocket nearly took down Vander. A sliver of HP left, but he's fine. He's going to swing the door, and he's going to be all right with this one. Just surviving, but that does mean a recall. H2K
you okay there?
Support.
We just have 2 teams constantly fighting around this Baron here and trying to look for picks against each other.
Spotted.
We still need to look at Ryu without summoners and what he can do in the fight. It's very hard to play Cassiopeia against things like Rumble and Malzahar, things that can zone you when you want to sit there and deal consistent DPS. it becomes difficult, especially without
Oh, here comes Westor with the Ghost.
Where's he going?
Looking for the play, gets the ulti onto Yankos. Tempered Fate to dodge the rest of the team, and he's gonna drop right down into Flame Choppers. There's the root, there's the kill. Great snipe picked up. Westor setting it all up and making it happen, and now no jungler. Let's go Baron.
Yeah, Yankos greeting with the flash here. As soon as Westor was in range, Yankos could have flashed out, but no, he saved it. Then he got stunned. Then he got locked down after.
H2K want this though. Ryu has enough mana and enough health to take a team fight. Knock up on Albus, looking to take down the support. There's Baron picked up really quick by the red team, but the team fight's still going in. The backline is safe from H2K, and they're putting in a ton of damage right now. On staying alive, gets the snipe. Now the re-engage from Ryu is going to pick up Mountain, and he will. On lifesteals on a ward, gets away from the poison, but be careful AHQ. It's going to be on. Figuring out if he wants to go. Oh! The snipe nearly takes down Forgiven, but H2K can't get much more. 2 dead from H2K, 3 dead from AHQ. The Baron still does mean more for the LMS squad, and we will disengage.
Oh my goodness, that was one tense Baron fight here. I have to say, both AD carries trading ults at the end. That's the second time that On has been robbed and not had quite enough execute
death by a
damage.
touch, and you would actually kill people.
Genius. Okay, but look at how ridiculous this fight is. Okay, so they stay in on the Baron and they commit to finishing it. Westor is sacrificing himself, trying to keep the rest of the team outside the pit. He does that. Mountain here actually doesn't even auto-attack. Odo Amne is out there. He's just running around on Olaf with his ultimate on. Eventually waits it out there as Ryu, as soon as the Olaf ultimate ends, he just ults him and kills him. So Mountain definitely could have done more there, but On, in the back of the pit, fends everyone off as they exchange snipes and eventually is able to just recall, saving his flash, crucially.
Yeah, very, very important. Good thing you highlight that, because we know H2K will try and get to that back line and actually kill On. It's really only the Olaf who's a tank in the front, so it is fairly easy to get onto the squishy targets, which means it's so important for Westor and On to have proper positioning and have the summoners ready in these big fights, because we are going to get some massive late game team fights. Dead even in gold, 32 minutes in, and both teams honestly just been hovering around Baron for like 10 minutes now, trading kills back and forth.
This is exactly what AHQ want, though. We mentioned in setting them both up. H2K heavily favored in the early game, but AHQ have been able to weather the storm. They've been able to even claim the Baron after all of the River games they've played over Vision, and they're feeling very good about the end game.
This is one thing I love about watching Worlds is you have sort of the general meta game and people know what the strong champions are, things like Elise, but you still have these teams that say, this is what we want to play, what we believe in. Things like this on Jinx, where, no, we're going to play around him, we're going to get to the mid-game team fights. That's our identity as AHQ, is setting this up, and it's worked. Yes, H2K got the early game lead. Yeah, they had the ganks, they won the lanes, but you come into the mid-game and AHQ feels so comfortable playing this kind of game.
And it's fun to see two teams, you know, we watched all the VODs, even though they're like 3 or 4 weeks old, still have the same tendencies, you know, they do the same things they're good at. You know, for AHQ, it's getting to late game, having good shot calling in the late game. For H2K, it's trying to snowball early game. They had a good start, but then mid game, H2K has been really weak in Europe, and were weak here again. They didn't really know what to do. They hovered around Baron in the river over and over, had 0 deep vision, and just went for the same mid tower time and time again. Didn't respect the fact that AHQ could collapse on them, and that really was the big turning point that pulled AHQ back in this game. They're heading gold now after getting another tower.
Still very excited to see the next team fight unfold. As Ryu has shown, he will not hesitate if he sees that backline in danger. Right now, though, Ziv and Odo Amne.
And it's going to be a Veganar pretty soon. Maw of Malmortius gets popped. He's going to run for this one. Yankos here to keep him and the rest of his team safe as AHQ runs down with the double Cloud Drake movement speed. Westor actually burned Ghost and Flash. I didn't see what he was running away from, but did burn a Summoners to get really nothing gained, maybe something to be escaped.
Well, it's still important for H2K. They can win that side lane if Odo Amne doesn't sit on the Rumble ulti, but right now it doesn't really matter because the rest of AHQ are constantly able to get towers down. That's another auto turret.
And that was with the tail end of their 2 Baron buffs. I was informed, by the way, that Westor flashed a wall to make that move faster, to try to catch up to Odo Amne. Was not quite able to, but he actually burned Summoners to try to make the gank happen. Either way, the high tempo play works out. AHQ now up 3 turrets, up 3,000 gold almost. And as the Baron buff times out, they'll reset one more time and score off with the Dragons respawning next.
And we're gonna get one of these big fights where 2 late game AD carries. They're gonna face each other, but one of them is a Jinx. But once she gets that 1 kill, you know, she can really snowball the entire fight and just win it alone. And with the amount of damage from a Malzahar and a Rumble as well, it is very easy to get targets low enough for Jinx to get the kill.
The reset is one of the huge defining differences, but the other one is that Forgiven does have the QSS still built into that Mercurial Scimitar. And, oh, never mind. QSS now built by On, and he also will be able to get out of a stun if Ryu does go for the Cassiopeia all-in, or the Braum stun eventually stacks up on him. You know, he'll be able to get out of one of these things.
And it's worth pointing out, really, as we talk about the AD carry item builds, they are some of the main damage dealers, that On actually has more gold than Forgiven now, despite the kill and the extra farm. Just the extra objective gold actually puts the AHQ AD carry ahead. He's generally up on the curve, has his armor penetration item, which is great for killing Odwamna and Vander. And you can see the money counts here. It's very AD carry centric. It's about those marksmen in the bottom lane, putting out consistent physical damage.
Mountain.
And now looking for the play on to Ryu, landing a couple of these slows, but Mountain's got to run out. He's going to lose his ulti very soon. Will there be a re-engage? A quick snipe into Albus. Not going to land much with the Tempered Fate. And now it's Yankov finding the stun in the Western. They're going to go for the mid laner, and AHQ are going to lose their Malzahar. It's a 5v4 now. H2K looking for a little bit more on this one. Not going to land the zap just yet as On. Yankos with low HP, but everyone can body block that Mega Death Rocket.
Bit of a disjointed engage there from AHQ this time around as Mountain
out of nowhere
flanks with just Westor there to deliver damage and immediately has to retreat. A very, very curious decision making here, and we'll have to see how they can clean it up afterwards because H2K want to make them pay for it.
Also remember Westor, who used that flash earlier to try and get down to the bottom lane and get a kill on Odwamna. Now didn't have it when Yankos splashed forward and actually cocooned him. So well played by Yankos and H2K, and Westor getting punished for being very, very greedy with his summons.
Nicely done. H2K bringing it back a little bit closer. Only 1,000 gold separates these teams. Baron Nashor and Elder Dragon both going to spawn almost at the same time. They're only 10 seconds apart. We see some teams happy to trade them 1-for-1 and a battle with the buffs later. Of course, Baron buff does last almost twice as long as the Elder Dragon buff, but
yeah, and in this case here, if you're H2K and you get an Elder Drake, the value is not the greatest when you only have one dragon. If you're AHQ on the other hand and you get it and you then can pick a fight, like what we see sometimes is people get Elder Drake and then rush to Baron. That's when you get the big jackpot, of course.
Honestly, I think either team would much prefer Baron over the Elder Dragon. Yeah, just because it's so much easier to defend here. Both these teams actually have pretty good tower defense. As long as they don't lose people in the fight over the objective. You know, Caitlyn and Cassiopeia pretty good at setting up those traps and trying to defend against a funneled-in team. Meanwhile, though, HQ, they're back to that vision game, setting up the pink wards around the Baron once again.
You can see the places they put them. The brush near mid lane, the next one over. They're controlling significant portions of the map. The run-in, you just can't put wards down and leave them. They get cleared away just like this. HQ control this river.
Critical item pickup for Odwamna as well. The Guardian Angel this late into the game is huge for those team fights, especially on the main tank. He can go in without fear, doesn't have flash, but he can charge right in, try and get that stun to set everyone up.
Yeah, because it's really going to be about the AD carries killing whatever frontline person walks towards them. It's going to be Mountain on one side and Odwamna on the other one, and whoever can stay alive the longest actually stops the enemy AD carry from hitting the squishies. It is HQ setting up here. Ziv can get a great ulti from up here if he gets multiple H2K members caught in some sort of choke point.
Baron got poked, got angry, and then they catch on a Ziv. They got the ward. He flashes crucially away in time. Ulti comes across, getting a little bit of damage, but not a ton. H2K actually durable enough. Ziv might have to reset here.
Yeah, Ziv used a lot there. H2K got some good cooldowns out of him, and they have a pretty good trap line set up here around this brush in the river, so it makes H2K's escape fairly awkward as the mid lane is pushing up.
But one thing to always look at now here late game is Sightstone wards left as the support, because you play so many, they get killed, and then suddenly you win a fight, but you can't actually do anything with it because you can't set up more vision, because the Sightstone is empty. It is the case now for Vander. He's staying around with the team to try and see if they can pick a fight, or maybe start Baron if too many HQ members recalled. But right now, everyone is just back and around the mid lane.
And post 40 minutes, item slots come at a premium. Those extra pink wards are going to be rare as you set up around Baron. These are the tense situations in League of Legends. These are the most tense fights. The post 40 minutes Baron Vision Wars.
It is.
Where everyone's just looking for that opportunity. You get a couple of seconds, you know, alone with the DPS of the enemy team, and you can win the whole thing.
And it's only 500 gold separating these two squads, even less than that. Recall's coming through for supports. Vander restocks his Sightstone, gets a couple of pink boards in there as well. He's one of the guys playing for Vision. Albus has plenty of these as well. H2K most recently took over Vision control, but they've had to recall, and now AHQ takes it back.
Remember how extra tense this is? Also because these are the two teams in the group really considered fighting for that #2 spot. Just like our first game of the day, AHQ and H2K really could gain a lot of momentum in their group if they take the victory here, either one.
Yeah, problem here for H2K was they actually did force AHQ back, but then they stayed around for too long, so they had to recall when HQ was back on the map. Mountain, let's see if they can actually force an ulti. They're trying.
Yeah, enough restraint though. He is building full tank. That is how Olaf builds in competitive. Just survive it all.
And Olaf, he doesn't actually have to base right here. I would go to a camp with Spirits, Spirit Visage, you have the extra healing. You can just go to a camp really quickly. Turns out that there's enough threat on the map fighting over the Vision that he can go just back to base. But Olaf can lifesteal off of jungle camp very, very quickly.
Also able to refresh his pink wards on that trip back, so he's got some in his inventory.
It's all we're looking
That's
at
even
right now.
more
Look at the
important.
ward.
Right?
The most important item in the game right now is those little pink circles in each inventory. You've got a mid laner and a support and a jungle support able to grab them right now. Westor could recall Celadoran's ring and get them.
I wonder if
I would
Probably
advise
actually.
Same.
I wonder if Probably stopped H2K or forced H2K to never ward the enemy jungle. Because it's always in the river, there's nothing behind it, so they can't actually see when HQ is moving around.
Oh, they're going for Ryu! And he's going to get hit by the Tempered Fate, but H2K is here to reinforce. Flame Choppers push him back. Vander jumping in, taking some damage.
They got the teleport out there. That was the big cooldown from H2K. Ryu does escape, though, with just the Ghost.
And they're still going to be pushing. Westor walks into mid, realizes there's no wave, walks back, but he walked through wards doing this. He's now a little bit alone. And yeah, those are Caitlyn traps over there. He's got to go a different direction. Innocent left, he could have walked over them and they wouldn't have done anything. He's immune to CC and wouldn't have taken damage, so it didn't matter, but...
Over one.
I don't think it even tick off him. That doesn't do damage anymore. But here we go, Westor back in onto Odwamna, putting half of his health onto the dumpster right now. Pops the Malva Mortius as well, and he's going to run out with this one. Yankos to reinforce, and once again, mid lane push first by AHQ.
And that means full access to the river where there are a few H2K wards, but as we've highlighted multiple times, H2K never has more than just a few wards.
And remember, critically, Odwamna used his teleport in the last attempt, so he doesn't have it to go back to base and teleport out. That's why AHQ are forcing this Baron and go burning it down.
5v4 force. Ryu is in full swing, though. He's going to dodge away from some of this. Down to half HP. Mountain wants in, and it's going to be the Mega Death Rocket taking him out. On taking a ton of health, though. He's got a kite back. Yankos has not killed him yet. Almost a kite away, and they will keep him alive. It's 2 for 0. This is not good for H2K. They've got to get out. A flash to get away from Tempered Fate, and that'll be a secure Baron you have to expect for AHQ.
Yeah, Ryu ended up just going aggressive alone here, trying to chase down the Jinx. He ends up getting caught in line.
3 versus 5 onto Odwamna. He has Guardian Angel. The pool doing so much damage. They're going to find Vander on flash to the wall, staying alive. Gets forgiven as well. This is the whitewash. H2K losing everybody. Odwamna, the last one to fall. That is an ace. That's going to be Baron and AHQ with a significant lead.
It was just a matter of time before AHQ got the right team fight with their scaling composition here on. He stayed alive. He managed to pick up 1 and 2 kills suddenly after each other. Ryu, look at his position here. He goes in all alone to try and chase the squishies of AHQ, and then he ends up overextending. He dies. No one followed. Odwamna is still running from base. He's joining now. Didn't even get to get full HP, and this is just a much better setup, a much better late game by AHQ and H2K. They're running out of options right now. They keep sitting in that river, place a few wards in river, and do nothing else.
AHQ underestimated once again, but the late game coming through so big. Westor on cooldown, ulting the front line, all that percentage health damage from Malzahar, doesn't hesitate. And look at this, On jumps out the back. They don't even lose a person in this Baron fight.
3 versus 5, not enough for H2K. You see Forgiven going, yeah, unlucky. Lost their lives for this one as AHQ have also managed to knock down the mid inhibitor and then come down, take the Elder Dragon, and then reset. Double buffs, major buffs on for the next 2 minutes. AHQ have all the tools they need to win the game in the next 2 minutes.
Definitely. Honestly, I've had the tools for the last, should we say, 15 minutes. Once they hit 3 items on Malzahar, on the Jinx, much better setup on the map, start taking down some of these turrets and getting the goal lead. They've been looking very, very good now here in the late game. And H2K, it's going to be very hard for them to do anything. Winning a 5-on-5 is almost impossible at this point.
Yeah, HQ pretty much topping off all the item builds now. They've got the warmongering Bard build here for Albus. Guardian Angel on Olaf is one of the best because we talk about, yeah, we've seen a lot of fights where Mountain has had to retreat with his ultimate on. Guardian Angel, no fear. You get to go make full use of your passive attack speed and just fight fearlessly. Your lifesteal at low health is extremely high.
And it really is important to see a Bard just go full tank because it means you can play way more aggressive in team fights and position yourself with these Qs here, trying to get, you know, the stun connected with the 2 members or with the wall. And you can actually just kind of be annoying because you can keep being in their face and they have to deal with you.
Not to mention the health regeneration that kicks in after you go for an aggressive play, then back off. You can see tops off very quickly there with the Warmog's passive. Right back to full, can go try and be annoying, as you say, once again, and snag some kills.
And right now, AHQ could pull the trigger on a dive because they've seen Odwamna's Gnar up in the mid lane clearing minions away, so 5v4 guaranteed control. H2K sees that, backs off, gives the turret away, and now we're only 30 seconds, even less than that, left on the Elder Dragon buff. They'll pick up what they can. Baron under a minute as well.
Kobe, you highlighted the amount of HP's going to get back. Let's talk right after because engage.
For the play, great equalizer off the top. Vander running out of health, and he's going to get sniped down. Another kill picked up here. Odwamna running for dear life under 1,000. And it's going to be already the inhibitor turret gone. The inhibit self also 5v4. AHQ still wearing buffs for a couple more seconds, looking for the death. They're looking to take it down right now. They've got super minions. They've got a ton of damage on a Forgiven. 600 damage crit there. The first turret gonna fall. Looking for number 2 as well as Ziv in the battle with Odwamna. Gets revenge from earlier on in the game, and that's gonna be the second turret down. 5 versus 3. H2K backs against the wall. The recall and the teleport back in for Ziv to be full HP, to go for the Nexus, to close it out here in the group stage. One more hit will do it. Not quite gonna find the kill. Oh, actually gonna lose his life, but they're going for the Nexus. They're gonna have the damage, and AHQ takes down H2K for their first match of the group stage.
This game honestly went almost as predicted. Early game in favor of H2K, late game in favor of AHQ, but H2K simply didn't manage to snowball their advantage. Mid game, way too often didn't they have any objective in mind, and when they actually thought about Baron, there was this vision in the river, never invade the enemy jungle, never really push it further, and AHQ just had enough time to scale into late game and start punishing mistakes from H2K.
AHQ honestly played so well around that Baron, though. You know, on taking that CS deficit in the Jinx lane, they were fine with doing it. They had the Bard as well to try and, you know, move across the map and create plays. The biggest issue has been Westor for them. Moving forward in this group stage, if we're looking at this team to really make that push and get out, which they're in a very good position to do, I think that there are definitely still some things they need to work on with Westor.
Both European teams lost now against the 2 teams that were fighting against for that second place. Both those European teams have to really step up, and they cannot afford to lose more games because suddenly you find yourself out of groups.
Exactly. These teams will get a rematch, both G2 versus CLG, as well as this match here, H2K versus AHQ. But if you win it once, you can win it again. There's the bow from AHQ Esports Club off of a well-earned, hard-fought victory. 47 minutes with a sample size of 3, the longest game so far at Worlds, I can definitively say, as I got to cast them all firsthand. And it was really very remarkable to see how well they were able to play into the mid-game, clearly playing more intelligently than H2K, a tight mid-game that they outplayed.
Yeah, I love to see teams who just punish the other team for not knowing what to do on the map. They didn't risk anything, AHQ. They didn't force any fights. No, they were like, you're not going to pressure this Baron properly. We can just wait. They got that kill in the mid lane when H2K kept going mid lane over and over and actually overextended. There was like 3 towers coming from that, multiple dragons as well. AHQ honestly just outplayed H2K on the map, and that's why they won this game.
And even before you get to the late game there for AHQ, while they're behind, they place their defensive vision. They do their homework. You know, they're placing these wards, and H2K walk right on them, trying to set up these pretty risky plays.
Yep, so a beautiful game now for AHQ, and we're going to be done here casting, but we're going to toss over to the analyst desk for a look at AHQ's first win at Worlds 2016.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I have a couple sad analysts here on the desk today, as once again, all 3 of you incorrect on the predictions. I'm gonna have to keep returning to this until you guys get one right. But
I've been
all 3
breathing
for
too much of the
H2K.
European air, man. What's going on? Like, I'm just baffled at the play that we're seeing here. It's like I wouldn't even be upset if the European teams were actually showing up, but they're playing bad. It hurts.
I thought I had a smart plan, guys. You know, I was like, okay, I got to find the cool kids. I got to find the smart kids. I need to prep with the right people. Went straight to Deficio and Crepo.
Right. Okay, but see, here's the thing. Both of you are now kind of just playing the ignorance card there, but that means that you listen to this man. So now I'm going to come to you, Crepo. Please defend the predictions here so far today.
Oh, you think I'm sad for my prediction rate? I'm sad for the horrible display of macro that H2K have shown there. Like, they forgot everything, and including about the game. It was disgusting. I'm ashamed for Europe right now, and I feel honestly really bad because they had the opportunity to close out the game very, very early on, and they neglected it.
Now, we talk about, lack of macro play out of the European teams, but we do also have to look at the other side. And AHQ, as Freak put it, intelligently playing against a team that did not know what to do throughout the game.
But to build up on Crepo's point, the reason why the macro play was so bad, I mean, for me particularly, one of the biggest things when you become a team, when you're trying to actually make it into a good professional team, it's using your teleports, knowing how to use TPs effectively. H2K had a decent early game, right? They had about a 2K gold lead that could have snowballed very well after a skirmish into the top side. You know why? Because they had a TP advantage onto the Gnar, who is one of the best divers in the bottom lane than out of everything else. So they have TP advantage, they have a setup bottom, they're beautiful, the jungler has recall, all they need to do, 5-man bottom, take the bottom turret, and you win the game, right from that get-go. But for some reason, that bottom turret never went down, and they lost every single dragon. They lost every Baron. What is going on? They just kept trying these solo picks. We saw Cassiopeia trying to get a 1v3 over the wall. Oh, my God.
I'm going to let Crepo jump on that point, but I just have to say, I wrote down here, why couldn't H2K convert their lead in the early game? And there it is right there, just not taking advantage of what they had built for themselves in TP advantages and that early gold lead.
And we saw both sides of AHQ, the struggling team that went a little bit over-eager in the early game that got punished. A couple of moves shouldn't be made. But then we also saw the AHQ that had the resurgence in their regional qualifier. Both 3-0s versus Hong Kong Esports and then Machi. And they swept that tournament. And they did that by merits of really good macro play. And here they were on the defensive because they had the scaling. And then they created space later on for their AD carry Jinx. But it was still taking advantage of weaknesses that H2K left, and especially Deficio harped on it. Like, we both love our deep vision. If you only ward river, you never challenge the deep vision. You let them just orb in, ward over the wall. It is so lackluster, and it's so disappointing to see. And I think the root of this problem is their internal communication, because with a coach like Prowley, who understands the game so well, you should be delivering more on the world stage.
Well, this to me, they just didn't seem to know the next step. They were so binary in their decision-making after getting a lead. I mean, the fulcrum of Ryu and Jankos were doing things in the early game, and then they just ran out of a plan. You know, they were looking for these really high-risk, low-percentage plays, the ult flash, looking for a pick with the Cassiopeia. When they finally got a pick on the Jinx and killed her, they'd used so much that they just couldn't really translate it into any objectives. So going for those low percentage plays, and even when they're getting the pick, just not being able to grow any sort of a lead.
You're talking about objectives. I want to take a moment to go ahead and take another look at that AHQ ace brought to you by Acer one more time. I mean, they had 2 Baron plays, but both played well by this team.
But it starts right here. The distance of this bar ulti is too far, even when you see the portal. So this means that Odoamne should actually never go for the teleport because he knows Ryu could actually just walk out of the ultimate. But there is just no communication as to what the entire plan is and what H2K is going to do next in case AHQ engage here. They seem to be caught off guard and panic teleport every single time, and that leads to a favorable Baron here.
And once again, like they go back towards the mid lane, they're trying to get control, but they just get caught out, and they're refusing to get the priority first. They're skipping steps in this entire process. You're 5-manning mid. This is not an ARAM.
And this is so smart from Westor. They just saw Odoamne teleport in. They use the ult. They force Odoamne to back. At worst, it's going to be the 5v4 for AHQ. So it's such a smart Baron timing. And you talk about communication, Crepo. Communication really on point from AHQ.
Yeah, AHQ on point. They bait them in, lure them into the Baron area. They can't finish it off, even though Jinx has that minigun, but they kite upwards in their safe region, and they suck in Ryu, who steps forward. And then obviously Ryu has counter threat potential, but not versus the super fed Olaf. Mountain again really positioning well in the fight. Everybody on AHQ here was on the same page. They used the Baron as a bait because they knew they were 4v5. They isolated the key target. They finished him off, and the rest was very easy to play out. Some sweet micro here too, on going for the wards for lifesteal. These little decisions really mattered.
That's also a little bit of that increased damage, minimum and maximum damage on that ultimate from Jinx, securing that first kill, freeing her up in terms of mobility to continue through the fight.
I mean, we followed that really long replay. That's like 3, 4, 5 points that were communicated and executed on. H2K got 1, 2 maybe at some points, but never to those next steps, and that was the difference.
And the fact that a replay was so long, it showed you that League of Legends is kind of a cascading series of events. It's not a single play. It's all in relationship with each other. It starts with the teleport being forced and being down. Then it goes down to Oluwamne being targeted out, and then with a man advantage, TP advantage, that gets translated into a play. That play looks like a bait and switch, you know, so all these things follow up on each other. That's what macro is. Now, H2K just had like, guys, let's play in this side of the map, and then, I mean, let's just play some solo queue.
Absolutely. Now, this wasn't an easy decision, but player of the game is going to go to Ziv. I mean, we talked about, you know, the win for this team came through the team play. So it's always really hard to pinpoint a singular person in those instances who brought it all home. But, you know, weathering the storm there from Oluwamne in the top lane, you know, smartly playing around minion waves and pressure, and then bringing in that AoE damage for the team fight.
It was one hell of a storm dash. This was a rush on the Mortis into Frozen Mount. It's about as much punishing a laning-focused build as you could go with the Gnar. It's why the Gnar was a little bit squishier in the team fights. Built for the lane, and yet still Ziv was able to sidestep that big power for the Gnar and do just fine.
And I like the tenacity that they had in just early rotationing Rumble Olaf right from the start. It's such a powerful combination that while against some matchups like the Gnar, it's not that easy to actually get a lane advantage, it's so devastating for the backline that they pick. And H2K draft is a completely immobile backline against it, which is so difficult to do. There's Bard, Rumble, and Olaf running at you. You know, I was hoping that we could see a Tristana from Forgiven, which was so successful in their previous runs, but it just didn't come out there, and Caitlyn just cannot do anything into that.
Well, AHQ victorious while the European teams still struggle to find their first victory here in the tournament. In just 3.5 minutes, Brazil's representative INTZ takes to the stage to face off against LPL champions Edward Gaming. We'll be right back, so stay with us.
We're finally at Worlds, guys, so this is our time to show up. All right, good luck, have fun.
He's gonna go for the jump off to the side, getting away from the axe, but it's gonna be enough damage for Mountain. One more chop, and there's the first blood for AHQ into the top lane.
Keep your way.
Having a teleport, and oh, he grounds him. Ziv cannot take off. He will get the kill.
Nice. Nice,
Whoa, over the flash play, they're gonna remove the chance to flash out, and On is gonna get blasted. Nakafana Alba's looking to take down the support. There's Baron picked up really quick by the red team, but the team fight's still going in. The backline is safe from H2K, and they're putting in a ton of damage right now. On staying alive, gets the snipe. Now the re-engage from Ryu is gonna pick up Mountain, and he will.
Nice.